Hi, I'm Mark from Trailbuddy. Today we're going to go over one of our wire harnesses. So this is our trouble-free wire harness, and this is a harness that you're going to want to choose if you're starting out with scratch or everything you have in your bike is just garbage, right? So like you're putting in the aftermarket engine, of course, right? So this is our TB 160. So this is our labeled harness. So we take the time. You have to label each plug-in, right? So like, for instance, like this is the horn. This would be the pigtail that would go up to your headlight bucket. And again, this harness is if your controllers are bad and you're doing like a full-on resto mod and you don't have anything, like if you're starting out with a frame, this is your best option. So this is our most easiest in terms of plug and play, because each plug-in here corresponds with like our left controller, right controller, our horn. If we move down the harness, we've got our label, right? We got our ignition key switch, so this just plugs right into our key switch. Down to our flasher relay, negative battery, frame ground, voltage, right? So they're all labeled. This one is also set up for a little bit of a mess, electric start. So we've got our one lug here that would go to the battery, and we've got our other lug here that would go to the electric start relay. And then there's a plug in here that goes to our starter switch. Now these come with a bullet connector, but there's so many different electric start solenoids that we have available. So most of the time, when let's say if you were to buy that electric start relay from us, we have adapter harnesses to be able to make this work with what you have. Some of them come with spades, some of them come with bullets, so you got to kind of make it work with what we have. That is the only thing that you'll have to monkey around with if you have an electric start. Now, if let's say you're going to use the same harness for just a kickstart only, what you're going to want to do is just get rid of or cut this heavy lug off here and then put electrical tape around it, because you won't need this lead, obviously, because you don't have an electric start, but you still will need to go to your battery. I think what we'll do next is we'll get a close-up video of the ends, and I can go over some more of the plugs, and we can check out some of the labels. So what we also include with the harness is we've got our little key here, right? So we've got the color, we've got the function, and this is also supplied with it. So if you really need to get into it and alter it in any way, you have the master list here of what color wire does what function. And as it lays in the motorcycle, all right, so we've got our little sheathing here. So this would come outside of the frame. This would go around underneath the triple tree and then into your headlight bucket. So inside there, that's kind of like your main junction box. So that's where you're going to do, for instance, here we've got a left controller. We've got, this would come out to the horn. We've got our front brake switch and the right controller. And again, these plug in right with our left and right controller assembly, so you don't have to rewire anything. It also works with our disc brake assembly here for the front brake switch. As we move down, this would be in the location where your key switch is. So this plugs right into our ignition, labeled ignition switch. It's all kind of shorthanded. And then this would be traveling underneath your gas tank down to where your motor would plug in. So we've got an aftermarket motor, and this is where the plug for that is. Right, and we also have what's in here, just in case you were working with a different engine than what we have. You can re-pin this. The easiest way to do that is you get an itty-bitty little pick or like a little nail, and there's just a little grabber in there where you can push that, and then you can pull this wire out and then redo it, or make your own bullet connections if you want to. But these are all labeled not just the plug, but the individual wire. And then our neutral safety switch. Here, next to that, would be our kill. So if you were to wire in a kill switch, this is kind of extra for what we have set up with our controller, because we usually rely on the ignition switch upstream. We're gonna go downstream of the inside the bike. We've got our rear brake switch, and then we've got our coil here for the 12 volt. So this will plug into our coil. So now this one, you could run into a situation to where sometimes they supply it with bullets, sometimes they supply it with spades. So this would be the only other thing that you would have to alter, depending on, because you're mixing and matching a whole bunch of different parts most of the time. This works with what we have and what we supply, but let's say you get a motor from someone else, this would be a place that you would have to maybe alter. Downstream even further, we've got our starter switch, so this would go to the relay along with our heavy lug that we talked about before. Now the motor itself comes with, or at least our motor does, comes with the other side of the lug that would go from the starter to the relay. And then our fuse holder here, which comes with an extra fuse. Now we're towards the end of the bike, going out to the tail light assembly. So then here would be the part that would go to the tail light, and then let's get this guy out of the way. And then these are we'll just call them accessories. We've got like their flasher relay, voltage regulator, and again, this plugs right in to the parts that we have. And our CDI plugs right into our CDI. We've got our frame ground. Now make sure when you put this on that you're actually getting a good ground. You're not putting it on brand new paint. And then in the back, where we have here, we've got our all labeled. We've got our ground wires. Right, for our blinkers, we've got our right turn, our left turn, our brake light switch. So this is a perfect harness to lay in there. And then I've used this harness on other motorcycles too, not just Trail 70s. I've altered this to go into a Honda S65. I'm putting this in right now in a TRX four-wheeler that I'm putting an aftermarket engine in. So it's a great option. So that covers this particular harness, and again, this is the most plug and play that we can offer with working with aftermarket parts. Plugs into all of our controllers, all of the parts for the 12 volt system. This is the best option if you want to do as little wiring as possible. And again, it comes with our function here that's supplied with it, so you know what color is what and what it's doing the function if you have to tap into it somewhere. But if you've got a bike where you're doing your 12 volt swap and you don't want to use any of the old controllers, or if you're especially starting out with just a frame, this is your perfect option for that. So this is a part that you can find on mytrailbuddy.com.